I was standing in my driveway in Phoenix, Arizona, checking the oil level on my brand new industrial generator, when Karren Osworth pulled up in her white Escalade with the HOA magnetic sign stuck to the door. It was 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday, and I had just gotten back from my night shift at the hospital where I worked as an ER nurse. All I wanted was to go inside, take a shower, and sleep for the next 8 hours. Yates Ferguson. Her voice cut through the quiet morning air like a chainsaw. I need to speak with you immediately about community matters. I straightened up, wiping my hands on a rag. Karren was in her late 40s, with that particular haircut that had become synonymous with demanding to speak to managers across America. She wore expensive athleisure where that probably cost more than my weekly grocery bill, and carried a leather-bound planner that I knew contained color-coded tabs for all her HOA grievances. "Good morning, Karren," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral despite my exhaustion. "What can I do for you?" She marched across my lawn, her designer sneakers leaving prints in the morning dew. "I see you've purchased a generator. That's actually perfect timing. The HOA is organizing the annual spring block party next month, and we're going to need to borrow it for the event." I blinked at her, processing what she had just said. Borrow it? Yes, borrow it. She said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "We need power for the DJ equipment, the bouncy castle, the food trucks. Your generator would be perfect. It's your civic duty as a member of this community." I set down my oil dipstick and turned to face her fully. "Karren, I just spent $12,000 on this generator. It's a Honda EU 7000 IS, top of the line. I bought it because we had those rolling blackouts last summer, and I need to make sure my mother's medical equipment stays running. She lives with me and requires a CPAP machine and an oxygen concentrator at night." "Yes, well, that's all very nice, but the block party is a community event. Everyone is expected to contribute." She flipped open her planner and clicked her pen. "I'm scheduling you for setup at 8 a.m. on April 20th. You'll need to have the generator fueled and ready to go." I didn't say yes, Karren. Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me. I'm not lending my $12,000 generator to the HOA. Besides that, there's another issue you're not considering. The manufacturer warranty specifically states that the warranty is voided if the generator is operated by anyone other than the registered owner or authorized service personnel. I read the entire warranty document when I registered it online. If someone else uses it and something goes wrong, I'm out of pocket for any repairs." Karren's face was starting to turn an interesting shade of pink. "That's the most selfish thing I've ever heard. This is a community, Yates. We all have to pitch in and help each other." "I'm happy to help in other ways. I can volunteer my time, I can bring food, I can help with setup or cleanup. But I'm not risking my warranty on a $12,000 piece of equipment that my mother's health depends on. The HOA board will be hearing about this." She snapped her planner shut. "We have ways of dealing with uncooperative homeowners." She stormed back to her Escalade and peeled out of my cul-de-sac, leaving me standing there with a bad feeling in my gut. I had lived in this neighborhood in Phoenix for 3 years, and in that time, I had watched Karren Osworth rise through the HOA ranks from busybody neighbor to vice president. She had a reputation for making life miserable for anyone who crossed her. I went inside, where my mother was sitting at the kitchen table having her morning coffee and watching the local news. "Was that Karren?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the television. "Yeah, she wants to borrow the new generator for the block party. I hope you told her no." "I did." "She didn't take it well." My mother finally looked at me, her weathered face concerned. "That woman is trouble, Yates. I've seen her type before. She's going to make this difficult for you. Let her try. I'm in the right here. The warranty is crystal clear, and besides, it's my property. She can't force me to lend it to them. I should have known better than to think it would be that simple. 3 days later, I received a formal letter from the HOA. It was delivered by certified mail, which meant I had to sign for it at the post office after my shift. The letter was 2 pages long and full of legal-sounding language, but the gist was clear. The HOA was demanding that I make my generator available for the spring block party as part of my community obligations under the Covenant Codes and Restrictions, or CCRs, that governed our neighborhood. I sat in my truck in the post office parking lot and read through the letter 3 times. They were citing Section 12, Paragraph 4 of the CCRs, which stated that homeowners were expected to participate in community events and contribute to the overall welfare and enjoyment of the neighborhood. They were arguing that my generator constituted a community resource that should be made available for sanctioned HOA events. It was complete nonsense, and I knew it. I pulled out my phone and called my neighbor, Derek Halloway, who was a real estate attorney. Derek and I had become friends over the past few years, bonding over our shared frustration with the HOA's increasingly aggressive tactics. "They're trying to do what?" Derek asked when I explained the situation. "They're saying I have to let them use my generator for the block party or face fines." "That's absolutely not how CCRs work. Send me a copy of that letter. I want to see exactly what they're claiming." I took photos of the letter and texted them to Derek. A few minutes later, my phone rang. "This is garbage," Derek said without preamble. "First of all, Section 12. Paragraph 4 is about participating in community events, not about surrendering your personal property for HOA use. Second, even if they somehow had a legitimate claim, which they don't, they would still be liable for any damage to your property while it was in their possession. And third, the warranty issue is a real legal concern. If they cause the warranty to be voided, you could potentially sue them for the cost of the generator. So what do I do? Write them back. Decline politely but firmly. Cite the warranty issue specifically. Offer alternative ways to help with the event, and document everything. Save every email, every letter, every conversation if you can. I thanked Derek and headed home. That evening, I drafted a response to the HOA. I kept it professional and factual. I explained again about the warranty, included a copy of the relevant section from the manufacturer's warranty document, and offered to help with the block party in other ways. I suggested they could rent a generator from one of the many equipment rental places in Phoenix, and I even looked up 3 options with prices and availability. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The HOA's response came a week later, and this time it wasn't just a letter. Karren showed up at my door with 2 other board members, the HOA president, Linda Patterson, and the treasurer, Mark Waverly. It was a Thursday evening, and I had just gotten home from a 12-hour shift at the hospital. "We need to discuss this generator situation," Linda said. She was in her mid-50s, with graying hair pulled back in a severe bun. She had the demeanor of a middle school principal addressing a troublesome student. "There's nothing to discuss," I said, standing in my doorway. "I've explained my position. The warranty is void if someone else operates the generator. I'm happy to help with the block party in other ways. Your refusal to cooperate is creating a significant problem," Mark chimed in. He was a heavy-set man in his 40s who worked in banking. "We've already had to adjust our budget for the block party 3 times. Renting a generator of sufficient capacity is going to cost the HOA nearly $2,000. Then pass that cost along to the residents in the form of a special assessment or reduce costs in other areas." "That's not my problem." Karren stepped forward. Actually, it is your problem. As a homeowner in this community, you have an obligation to support community events. We're prepared to impose fines if you continue to refuse. Fines for what exactly? I haven't violated any rules. I've read the CCR's cover to cover, and there's nothing in there that requires me to lend my personal property to the HOA. Section 12, paragraph 4, Linda said, is about participating in events, not about property, and I've already said I'm willing to participate. I'll volunteer my time. I'll bring food, I'll help set up and clean up, but I'm not voiding a $12,000 warranty. The three of them exchanged glances. There was something in their expressions that I didn't like. "We'll be in touch," Linda said finally, and they left. I called Derek again. "They came to your house." He sounded angry. "That's borderline harassment, Yates. You need to start documenting this stuff more formally. Send me an email tonight summarizing that conversation. Include the date, time, who was there, and exactly what was said. You think this is going to escalate?" With Karren Osworth on the board, absolutely. I've dealt with her before on other HOA matters. She's relentless, and she doesn't like being told no. Over the next 2 weeks, I received 3 more letters from the HOA, each one more threatening than the last. They started imposing fines $50 per day for non-compliance with community obligations. I responded to each letter in writing, reiterating my position and making it clear that I considered the fines to be illegitimate. Derek helped me file a formal dispute with the HOA, which under Arizona law they were required to address before they could place a lien on my property for unpaid fines. We cited multiple precedents showing that HOAs could not commandeer private property for their use, and we included detailed documentation of the warranty issue. The HOA's response was to schedule a special hearing before the board. The letter notifying me of the hearing made it clear that this was my final opportunity to resolve this matter before legal action was taken. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday evening at the community center, which was a small building at the entrance to our neighborhood that was used for HOA meetings and community events. I arrived 15 minutes early, and Derek came with me as my legal representative. The community center's main room was set up like a courtroom, with a long table at the front for the board members and rows of chairs for residents. About 20 people were already there, including several of my neighbors. Some of them gave me supportive nods, others looked away. Karren was sitting at the board table, looking smug. Linda was in the center seat, with Mark on her other side. There were 2 other board members I didn't recognize as well. "This hearing will come to order," Linda announced at 7 p.m. sharp. "We're here tonight to address the continued refusal of homeowner Yates Ferguson to comply with HOA requirements regarding the upcoming spring block party." Derek stood up. "May I speak?" "You are." Linda's tone was frosty. "Derek Halloway, attorney at law. I'm here representing Mr. Ferguson." "This is an informal HOA hearing, not a court of law. Legal representation isn't necessary. Mr. Ferguson has the right to representation if he chooses. If you'd like to proceed without legal representation present, we can adjourn this hearing and schedule a proper legal proceeding with a neutral arbitrator, as required by Arizona HOA law." Linda's jaw tightened. "Fine. What do you want to say?" "I want to make clear for the record that Mr. Ferguson has not violated any provision of the CCRs. He has not refused to participate in community events. He has, in fact, offered multiple times to participate in the block party in various ways. What he has declined to do is surrender his personal property for HOA use, which is not required by any provision of the CCRs or by Arizona law." Section 12, paragraph 4, Karren interjected. Derek pulled out a copy of the CCRs. Section 12, Paragraph 4 states, and I quote, "Homeowners are encouraged to participate in community events and activities that promote the general welfare and enjoyment of the neighborhood. Encouraged, not required. And participation does not mean surrendering private property." "The generator is necessary for the block party," Mark said. "Then rent one," Derek replied. "As Mr. Ferguson has pointed out multiple times, there are several equipment rental companies in Phoenix that can provide suitable generators at reasonable rates." "That's not the point," Karren said, her voice rising. "The point is that Yates has something the community needs and he's being selfish by refusing to share it." "The point," Derek said, his voice calm but firm, "is that this is America and we have property rights. Mr. Ferguson's generator is his property. The HOA has no legal authority to commandeer it for any purpose." "We're offering to compensate him," Linda said. This was news to me. I leaned forward. "You are?" "We're prepared to offer you $100 for the use of your generator for the day of the block party." I looked at Derek, who was already shaking his head. "That's not even close to adequate compensation," Derek said. "But more importantly, the warranty issue remains. Mr. Ferguson has documented that his manufacturer warranty is void if anyone other than the registered owner or authorized service personnel operates the generator. If someone from the HOA damages it, even accidentally, Mr. Ferguson would be out $12,000. "We'll be careful," Karren said. "That's not sufficient legal protection," Derek replied. "If you want to use Mr. Ferguson's generator, you would need to provide a bond or insurance policy covering the full replacement value of the unit, plus compensation for his time and the risk to his warranty. We're talking about several $1,000s minimum." The board members conferred in whispers. Finally, Linda spoke. "We're not going to pay several $1,000s when we can rent a generator for $2,000. Then rent a generator," I said. "That's what I've been suggesting all along." "This hearing is concluded," Linda said abruptly. "The board will take the matter under advisement and issue a ruling within 10 business days." Derek and I left the community center. In the parking lot, several of my neighbors came up to me. "That was complete nonsense," said Patricia Woods, an elderly woman who lived 2 doors down from me. "Karren Osworth is out of control. She tried to fine me last year for having my grandson's bicycle on my front lawn. They're going to keep pushing," Derek warned me as we walked to our cars. "Karren doesn't like to lose. My advice is to prepare for them to try something else." "Like what?" "I don't know, but document everything. Keep your generator locked up, and stay vigilant." I went home that night feeling uneasy. Derek was right that something didn't feel finished about this. The HOA had essentially admitted they couldn't force me to hand over my generator, but Karren had looked too satisfied when we left. 4 days later, I found out why. I came home from an overnight shift at the hospital on Saturday morning to find my side gate open. My heart sank. I ran around to my backyard, where I kept the generator in a locked shed. The shed door was standing open, the lock broken. The generator was gone. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what I was seeing. Then I pulled out my phone and called 911. The Phoenix Police Department sent 2 officers to my house within 20 minutes. Officer Thompson and Officer Martinez took my statement and examined the shed. "Any idea who might have taken it?" Officer Thompson asked. "Yes," I said. "The HOA." I explained the entire situation to them, the dispute over the block party, the letters, the fines, the hearing. Officer Martinez raised his eyebrows. "You think your HOA stole your generator?" "I think someone did, and given that I've been in a dispute with the HOA over this exact item for the past month, they'd be my first suspect." The officers took photos of the broken lock and the shed. They gave me a case number and told me they'd be in touch. After they left, I called Derek. They did what? He sounded shocked. Someone broke into my shed and took the generator. The police were just here. Call your homeowner's insurance right now. File a claim. Then send an email to the HOA informing them that your generator was stolen and that you filed a police report. Don't accuse them directly, but make it clear that the police are investigating. I followed Derek's advice. My insurance company took the report and told me they'd send an adjuster out within a few days. I sent a carefully worded email to the HOA board, stating that my generator had been stolen sometime overnight and that I had filed a police report. The response came within an hour from Karren. It was brief. That's unfortunate. We hope it turns up. The next few days were frustrating. My insurance adjuster came and documented the damage to my shed and took my statement about the missing generator. The police investigation seemed to be going nowhere. Officer Martinez called me once to tell me they had checked with local pawn shops but hadn't found anything. Then, 10 days after the theft, I got a phone call from my neighbor, Patricia Woods. "Yates, you need to come to the community center right now," she said, her voice urgent. "What's going on?" "They're setting up for the block party, and they have a generator." I drove to the community center immediately. The block party was scheduled for the following day, and volunteers were busy setting up tables, stringing lights, and arranging equipment. And there, sitting on a flatbed trailer near the DJ booth, was my Honda EU 7000 IS generator. I recognized it immediately. It had a distinctive scratch on the side panel where I had accidentally scraped it against my garage door frame when I first brought it home. And there was the registration sticker in the corner with my owner number on it. I took out my phone and started taking photos from every angle. Then I called the police. Officer Martinez arrived about 30 minutes later. I showed him the generator and pointed out the identifying features. "That's definitely your unit," he asked. "Absolutely." "Look at the registration sticker. That's my owner number. And see that scratch? I did that myself 3 weeks ago." Officer Martinez walked over to where Karren and Linda were standing near the DJ booth. I followed. "Excuse me, ladies. I'm Officer Martinez with Phoenix PD. Can you tell me where you got this generator?" Karren's face went pale, but Linda stepped forward smoothly. "We rented it from a local equipment rental company." "Which company?" "I'd have to check our records. Mark Waverly handled the rental. He's not here right now." "I'm going to need you to get me that information. This gentleman claims this is his generator, which was reported stolen about 10 days ago." "That's ridiculous," Karren said, but her voice was shaky. "We rented this fair and square." "Then you'll be able to provide a rental agreement," Officer Martinez said. "I'll wait." Linda and Karren walked away, heads together in urgent conversation. Officer Martinez turned to me. "You're sure this is yours?" 100%. I can prove it." "The generator has a serial number etched on the engine block. I have the registration papers in my truck with that serial number on them." "Go get them." I ran to my truck and grabbed my folder of paperwork for the generator. I brought it back and showed Officer Martinez the registration document with the serial number. He examined it, then walked over to the generator and checked the engine block. "Numbers match," he said. "This is your generator." By this time, Linda and Karren had returned along with Mark. Mark was flustered and sweating. "We have a problem," Mark said. "I can't find the rental paperwork." "Can't find it or it doesn't exist?" Officer Martinez asked. "I know we rented it. I just can't locate the receipt right now." "Here's what's going to happen," Officer Martinez said. "Mr. Ferguson is going to take possession of his property. You folks are going to come down to the station and answer some questions about how you came to have stolen property in your possession." "This is insane." Karren's voice was getting shrill. "We didn't steal anything. Someone must have sold it to us, or we found it or something." "Found it?" Officer Martinez looked at her skeptically. "You found a $12,000 generator." "I don't know. I wasn't directly involved in getting it." "Then who was?" There was a long silence. Finally, Linda spoke. "I want to call my lawyer." "That's your right," Officer Martinez said, "but this generator is being returned to Mr. Ferguson right now. He helped me load the generator into the bed of my truck." Several neighbors had gathered to watch the spectacle, and I heard murmuring as Karren, Linda, and Mark were asked to go to the police station for questioning. Derek called me that evening. "I heard about what happened at the community center. The neighborhood gossip chain is on fire. The police have the generator back for me. They took Karren, Linda, and Mark to the station for questioning." "This is serious, Yates. If they actually stole your generator, that's criminal theft. Given the value, it's probably a felony." "I know. Part of me feels bad. I mean, they're my neighbors. They broke into your property and stole a $12,000 piece of equipment rather than just rent a generator like normal people. Don't feel bad. They did this to themselves." The next day was supposed to be the block party, but it was canceled. A notice went out via email that morning. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, the spring block party has been postponed until further notice." I spent the day at home, catching up on sleep and checking over my generator to make sure it hadn't been damaged. Everything looked fine. The hour meter showed it had never been started, which was good. Whoever had taken it apparently hadn't tried to use it yet. Officer Martinez called me that afternoon. "I wanted to update you on the investigation," he said. "We've conducted interviews with the board members." The theft was orchestrated by Karren Osworth. She recruited 2 other people to help her. One was her son. The other was a friend from her gym. They broke into your shed while you were at work, loaded the generator into a pickup truck, and stored it at Karren's house until it was time for the block party. Did she confess? Eventually. The other board members were genuinely shocked. They thought she had arranged a rental like she claimed. She lied to them about it. She's being charged with felony theft, conspiracy, and criminal damage for breaking your lock. Her son and her friend are being charged as accomplices. What happens now? The case will be referred to the county attorney's office. They'll determine what charges to file formally. You may be called as a witness if it goes to trial. In the meantime, I'd recommend getting a restraining order against Karren. She's out on bail and I don't want her harassing you." I thanked Officer Martinez and hung up. Then I just sat there for a while, trying to process everything. This whole situation had spiraled so far beyond what I ever could have imagined. Derek helped me file for a restraining order that week. The hearing was quick. The judge reviewed the police report and the evidence and granted a temporary order of protection. Karren was to stay at least 500 feet away from me and my property at all times. The HOA, meanwhile, was in chaos. Linda Patterson resigned as president, issuing a statement that she had been unaware of Karren's criminal actions and felt betrayed by a fellow board member. Mark Waverly also stepped down. Karren was, of course, removed from the board immediately. An emergency meeting was called to elect new board members. I attended, mostly out of curiosity. The mood in the community center was somber. Patricia Woods was nominated and elected as the new president. She was a retired teacher, sensible and well-liked. 2 other residents I knew to be reasonable people were elected to fill the other vacant positions. Patricia's first act as president was to issue a formal apology to me on behalf of the HOA. She stood at the front of the room, looking directly at me. "Yates, What happened to you was completely unacceptable. The HOA exists to serve the community, not to harass residents or violate their rights. On behalf of the board, I apologize unreservedly. We're also going to be conducting a full review of our CCRs and procedures to make sure something like this never happens again. There was applause from the assembled residents. I stood up. I appreciate that, Patricia. Thank you. I hope we can all move forward from this. The criminal case moved forward over the following months. Karren's attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the county attorney's office wasn't interested in being lenient. The theft was premeditated and involved multiple people. It was a serious crime. The case went to trial in September. I was called to testify about the dispute with the HOA, the theft, and the recovery of my generator. The prosecutor presented evidence including the emails and letters documenting the dispute, photos of my broken shed, and testimony from Officer Martinez. Karren's defense attorney tried to argue that she had intended to return the generator after the block party, so it wasn't really theft, just unauthorized borrowing. The prosecutor shredded that argument, pointing out that you can't borrow something by breaking into someone's property and taking it without permission. That's just theft. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. They found Karren guilty on all counts: felony theft, conspiracy, and criminal damage to property. Her son and her friend, who had separate trials, were also convicted. At the sentencing hearing in November, Karren's attorney pleaded for leniency, arguing that she had no prior criminal record and had already suffered significant consequences, including her removal from the HOA board and damage to her reputation. The judge was not sympathetic. Mrs. Osworth, you orchestrated a deliberate criminal conspiracy to steal your neighbor's property. You did this not out of necessity or desperation, but because you were angry that he wouldn't let you use his belongings. You then lied to your fellow board members and attempted to use the stolen property at a community event. Your actions show a concerning level of entitlement and disregard for the rights of others. I'm sentencing you to 18 months in county jail, with credit for time served, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. You're also ordered to pay full restitution to Mr. Ferguson for the cost of his damaged lock, any damage to his shed, and his insurance deductible. Additionally, you'll pay a fine of $5,000. Karren's son received a year of probation and community service as a first-time offender who had cooperated with the investigation. Her friend got 6 months in jail and 2 years probation. I felt a complex mix of emotions watching Karren being led out of the courtroom. Part of me was satisfied that justice had been served. Another part just felt sad that things had gone this far. All of this could have been avoided if she had just accepted the word no and moved on. The HOA continued its reforms under Patricia's leadership. The new board implemented several changes, including a clearer definition of what community participation meant in the CCRs. No one would ever again try to claim it meant surrendering personal property. They also established an independent review process for disputes between homeowners and the board, so future conflicts wouldn't escalate the way mine had. The spring block party was eventually held in June with a rented generator. It was a nice event, actually. I volunteered to help with setup and cleanup, and I brought a couple of trays of barbecue from my favorite local place. Patricia made a point of thanking all the volunteers publicly, including me. "This is what community is supposed to be about," she said from the small stage where the DJ was set up. People coming together voluntarily, contributing what they can, supporting each other, not forcing anyone to do anything, not violating anyone's rights, just neighbors being good to each other. There was applause, and the party continued. I spent some time talking with neighbors I hadn't seen in a while, watching kids jump in the bouncy castle, and enjoying the warm Arizona evening. As the sun set and the DJ started playing dance music, Patricia came over to where I was standing. "Thank you for handling all of this with such grace," she said. "A lot of people would have sued the HOA into oblivion. We're grateful you didn't." "I thought about it," I admitted. "But Derek advised me that you can't get blood from a stone, and suing the HOA would just mean assessing all the homeowners to pay for it. That would have punished a lot of innocent people. Still, you're a good man, Yates. I'm glad you're part of this community." My mother's health remained stable, which was the most important thing. The generator sat in my shed, which now had a much better lock, ready for the next time we had a power outage. It gave me peace of mind knowing that if the electricity went out, my mother's medical equipment would keep running. Karren served her jail time and was released after 14 months for good behavior. I saw her once at the grocery store several months after her release. She was with her husband, and when she saw me, she turned and walked down a different aisle. I didn't chase after her. There was nothing left to say. The neighborhood settled into a new normal. The HOA functioned the way it was supposed to, handling actual community business like maintaining common areas and organizing reasonable social events. No one tried to seize anyone's property. Disputes were handled through proper channels with respect for property rights and due process. I continued working at the hospital, continued taking care of my mother, and continued living my life in Phoenix. The generator incident became a story that neighbors told when warning new residents about HOA overreach, usually with the punchline, "But we have a good board now." Patricia and her team actually have common sense. Derek and I remained friends, bonding even more over our shared experience fighting HOA insanity. We got together for beers once a month or so, and the generator story became one of his favorites to tell at parties, always with the disclaimer. This is why I tell everyone to read their CCRs before buying a house and know your rights. One warm evening in March, almost a year after the whole ordeal had ended, I was in my backyard doing some maintenance on the generator. Just checking the oil, running it for a few minutes to keep everything in good working order, the routine stuff the manual recommended. My mother came outside and sat in one of the patio chairs, watching me work. "You know what I'm proud of," she said. "What's that?" "You stood your ground. You knew you were right, and you didn't let them bully you into doing something that would have cost you. But you also didn't become bitter about it. You're still involved in the community. You still help people. You didn't let Karren's craziness turn you into an angry person." "Thanks, Mom. I learned that from you, actually," she smiled. "Maybe, but you still had to make the choice yourself." I finished checking the generator and sat down next to her. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Somewhere down the street, kids were playing, their laughter carrying on the evening breeze. "You know what the weirdest part is?" I said. "If Karren had just accepted that I couldn't lend them the generator and moved on, we probably would have been fine. I might have even volunteered to help them shop for a good rental, or given them advice on what kind of power they'd need. But she had to make it a battle. She had to try to force the issue, and it destroyed her life. Some people can't stand being told no," my mother said, "especially when they think they have power over others. That's what the HOA presidency was to her, power, and when you didn't submit to that power, she couldn't handle it. Well, she's handled it now." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the evening. Inside the house, the phone rang. I got up to answer it. It was Patricia from the HOA. "Hey Yates, quick question. We're planning a fall festival in October and we're trying to line up volunteers." Would you be interested in helping with setup? Sure, I can do that. What do you need? Mostly just people to help move tables and chairs, string some lights, that kind of thing. We're keeping it simple this year. Sounds good, count me in. Perfect. Thanks, Yates. Oh, and don't worry, we're renting our own generator. I laughed. I appreciate that, Patricia. After I hung up, I went back outside. My mother had gone in to start dinner, but the generator was still sitting there in the golden evening light, humming softly. $12,000 of gleaming Honda engineering, ready to keep my mother's medical equipment running whenever we needed it. The warranty was intact. The generator was secure, and the neighborhood was finally peaceful. Life in the HOA wasn't perfect, but it was working the way it was supposed to. People respected each other's property. Disputes were handled reasonably. Community events happened without drama or theft. It had taken a criminal trial and a year of stress to get here, but we had arrived at something resembling common sense and mutual respect. And in the world of homeowner associations, that counted as a victory. I locked up the shed with my new heavy-duty padlock, gave it an extra tug to make sure it was secure, and went inside to have dinner with my mother. Through the window, I could see my neighbors walking their dogs, kids riding bikes, people enjoying their evening in the Arizona warmth. This was what community was supposed to be. Not forced participation or surrendered property rights, but people choosing to be good neighbors to each other, choosing to respect boundaries while still helping when help was needed, choosing to solve problems reasonably instead of turning everything into a power struggle. The generator incident had been a nightmare while it was happening, but in a strange way, it had made our neighborhood stronger. It had exposed a toxic leadership that needed to be removed. It had sparked reforms that protected everyone's rights, and it had brought reasonable people together to take back their community from those who saw it only as a way to exercise petty authority over others. 6 months later, I was invited to speak at a local homeowner rights group. They had heard about my case and wanted me to share my experience with other homeowners who were dealing with difficult HOAs. Derek came with me for moral support. Standing in front of 50 people at a community center across town, I told the story of the generator, the HOA's increasingly aggressive demands, the theft, and the criminal trial. When I finished, there was silence for a moment, then questions. "How did you stay calm through all of that?" asked a woman in the front row. "I had good support," I said. "My attorney was invaluable, my neighbors stood by me, and I knew I was in the right. When you know you're right and you have the documentation to prove it, it's easier to stand firm." "What advice would you give someone dealing with HOA overreach?" asked a man in the back. "Document everything. Every conversation, every letter, every incident. Take photos, save emails, make notes. If something happens, write down what happened when it happened and who was there." That documentation saved me when it came to the police investigation and the trial. Also, know your rights. Read your CCRs. Understand what the HOA can and cannot do, and don't be afraid to get legal help if things escalate. It's worth the money to have an attorney review your situation and advise you on your options. After the talk, several people came up to thank me and share their own HOA horror stories. It was clear that my experience, while extreme, wasn't unique. HOAs across the country were overstepping their authority, and homeowners needed to know how to push back. Driving home that night, Derek said, "You know, you could probably write a book about this." "Nobody would believe it," I said. "They'd think I made it up." That's the thing about HOA stories. The truth is usually more bizarre than fiction. We drove through the Phoenix night, past neighborhoods just like mine, each with their own HOA, their own boards, their own potential for both reasonable community management and absolute insanity. The generator was still in my shed, working perfectly. The warranty was still intact. My mother was still healthy, her medical equipment humming along with reliable power. And I was still a homeowner in good standing with my HOA, participating in community events on my own terms, with my property rights respected. It had been a long, strange journey from that first conversation with Karren in my driveway to standing in front of a room of homeowners sharing my story. But I had learned valuable lessons about standing up for yourself, documenting everything, knowing your rights, and not backing down when you know you're right. Most importantly, I had learned that communities work best when they're built on mutual respect and voluntary cooperation, not on forced compliance and power struggles. The new HOA board understood that. Most of my neighbors understood that. And the ones who didn't had learned some hard lessons about the consequences of violating other people's rights. As I pulled into my driveway and saw the lights on in my house, my mother visible through the kitchen window making her evening tea, I felt a deep sense of contentment. This was home. This was community. Not perfect but functional. Not conflict-free but respectful. A place where I could live my life, protect my property, care for my family, and still be a good neighbor. The generator sat secure in its shed, ready for the next power outage, its warranty intact and its ownership undisputed. And that was exactly as it should be.